All right, good morning, guys. Was not planning on doing a live stream. For those of you who are familiar with my channel, what I've been doing, I have this little project called EmComm Tools. I'm working through the R4 release 4. R3 was released back in Thanksgiving. At a very high level, it's a plug and play platform to make radio easy. The challenge is there's some uh, licensing issues that require that you build the image. So I was just about to sit down and just for my personal testing to validate the documentation I put up on the community site, I decided to take you guys with me. So this is not going to be a formal presentation. It may have hiccups, but I thought it might be fun to take you along. If you guys are in the chat, it would be great if you can tell me how my audio is doing. Again, this was cold and actually I have to get to work at the top of the hour. So hopefully this won't take too long. I'll try to get to messages once we get to points in the install. That will take some time. So definitely come on in, guys. All right. Thanks for the report, Michael. And apologies for not letting you guys know this was completely unplanned. All right. So let's go share our screen. The place to go is community.emcommtools.com. And I'm going to do this this install, assuming you've already gone through and done an install of at least Ubuntu. So you do have to install Ubuntu 22.10. And I've got the directions up on community.emcommtools.com. And then there's a small process you have to do one time to set up some tools, and then you can build the image. For those of you guys running EmComm Tools R3, you can start with the current build you have. So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm quite literally going to copy and paste the whole way through. So first and foremost, we're using Ubuntu 22.10 as the base image. There are a lot of reasons for that. Check out the FAQ. And the first thing we want to do is open up a terminal and create a directory for our cubic image project. So I am quite literally just going to hit the little copy icon over here on the clipboard on the left, and we're going to switch back and forth between my systems, and we'll just do paste. And at this point, we should have a directory in our root folder or of our home directory called EmComm Tools OS Community 2025 0401 R4 Final. Okay. So not going to be a sexy video. This is just to get info out there. So next thing we want to do is launch Cubic. This is the ISO creator that allows you to build a custom version of a baseline version of Ubuntu. So within EmComm Tools, you have a couple of options. You can click the little menu down here, and you can type in Cubic, and you should see this guy pop up. Just click on that. All right. The next step, which I know, is to click on the little file icon, and you just want to point it at the workspace or the directory that we just created. Okay, and then go to next. Now on this screen here, what we're going to do is on the left-hand side, we are going to select the ISO image that we're using as the base. And for us, it is the Ubuntu 22.10 desktop AMD 64 ISO. Again, all documented. And then at this point, it's going to go and populate the custom disk details. And I do want to go ahead and change it. So if we scroll down a little bit in the documentation here, we've gone through this process here. We've gone through the process of selecting the 22.10 ISO image. And now I just want to go and we'll just cut and paste values. So for the version, we want to use 2025 0401 R4 final. So we're just going to go ahead and go over here, right click, paste. So there's really no magic to this. This isn't automated by any means. And then for the file name, I have a very particular convention that I like to use. So let's go ahead and click copy there. And this will be the actual ISO image that will be created about an hour from now. And it does take about that much time. So they'll be waiting. So what I'll do is I will open it up for questions once we get to a point in the build where it's going to be doing its thing. For the volume ID, this will be the name of the USB disk when it's written to. I use one word, all uppercase letters, etc_R4_final. And this is a pretty standard process. And then for the release, I always put TTP, and then the disk name will be automatically calculated for us. Let's copy this guy right here. Okay, so we'll put for the release TTP, and then at this point, disk name, I don't do anything with it. I just let it do its default calculation, and then I just put the link to the community website here and leave the OS release checked. Okay, so at this point, it's just going to do its thing. I'm actually running on a Dell 7220 tablet with a iKey keyboard. It's not a speed demon, but it does build quite a bit faster than if you guys are using like an FZM1. So I personally have a different build system. That's my daily driver off camera. But, you know, any computer I think built in the last 10 years that is has a 64-bit Intel architecture, 8 gigs of RAM, and at least 128 gig SSD should work pretty well. So again, guys, if you're coming on in, this is an ad hoc walkthrough of me validating the documentation by copying and pasting. Before I officially announce this, I just want to let everybody know that it does work, and I need that confidence. Okay, so at this point, we need to go and apply our customizations that will turn Ubuntu 22.10 into what we're calling EmComm Tools R4, and we're in a virtual terminal where we can make those changes. So we'll go scroll down here. Okay, so once you're in there, again, we're just going to go ahead and click the little clipboard here to copy this command, and this will copy all of the scripts and all of the resources that we need to build EmComm Tools. And now we're doing this in the virtual terminal, so this will download it. And what I like to tell people is, if you can, oh, come on, yep. If you're going to build EmComm Tools, try to do it as close to the official release. We've had issues in the past where third-party sites pull down downloads that we rely on, and it's just a nightmare to keep up to date with it. So at this point, if we look in our directory in the virtual terminal, we should have the full EmComm Tools release. And going through here, we've done the wget. And to cut and paste again, now we're just going to unpack what we call a tarball. It's essentially a zip file, but the tar format is what is typically used under Linux systems. So we'll paste that, and this will unpack and extract. And now if we do a listing, we should see a directory, EmComm Tools OS Community. Okay, so we're going to change into the installer directory. So we'll copy there. Right click and paste. So now we're going to be in this installation directory, and we're going to run the main installer. There is one thing that I like to do differently. I put time here just so I can time how long the script takes, but not necessary. And then we're going to cut and paste install.sh. And this process is going to take quite some time, and it's doing a bunch of stuff under the hood. So I'm going to start taking questions right now while that's going. This will probably take on my system 20 to 30 minutes. So we may have some dead air, and I don't have a co-host today. So I did think, great to have something to watch while I rebuild the RAID array on my NAS. Yeah, no problem, man. Like I said, I was just sitting down. It's been super busy doing LAN navigation stuff, getting into the Fox hinting, wrapping up the BBS. Where's my phone? Don't have my phone with me. I'm testing a new iOS application that I'm not prepared to talk about yet, to be respectful for the iOS developer who's working on it. Suffice it to say, it's an application that will be of interest to the packet radio enthusiasts that watch this channel. It's very early. I just, in fact, it's funny. I am not a iOS guy on the phone side. Haven't been for a while. I switched over to Android a couple years back, And I've been using an iPhone 8 for my wife for years, more as a content consumption device. And I have this policy of where I don't like to update uh, my operating systems while I'm working through a project or when everything is working. I have a different way of working around not being the latest in terms of security by just user behaviors that are different from most people. And I was running iOS version 15, and I got the test flight invite for that application. It's a way to go into kind of a beta program. And it turns out that the developer forced iOS 18, and he told me, hey, your old iPhone 8 won't even upgrade to that. So what I had to do was go onto Amazon, and I really like that small form factor phone. I wish I had it with me. I don't know why I don't have my phone. But I found an old, let me actually switch over to it while this is going. Let me see if I can find it. And I'm going to have to hide my screen for 1 second here. Let me pull this guy up. And we'll go to orders. Come on. Orders. Oh, hold on. I'm on the wrong account here. 1 more second. I got to get into my personal account. I should have bought that one into the tech prepper stuff since it technically is for evaluation purposes. Okay. Close that. Open that. So I found this iPhone 2022 SE model, and it's actually not, oh, that is not the iPhone that I bought. That is the camera case. Anyways, we'll talk about this. So the camera case that I like was originally developed by Magpul for the iPhone 8. It turns out it also works for the SE. This is the one that I bought. If you guys are actually an iPhone 8 user or an SE user, I really do like this little case here. So I'm going to have to stop this again. But anyways, I went with a iPhone, an older one that's 2 years old. And what I found amazing is how inexpensive these older phones are. If I was on a budget, and I'm getting a lot more budget conscious these days, it feels like that is absolutely the way to go, is not buying the latest and greatest. In fact, I won't be buying a new iPhone or Android device anytime soon because of all of the AI and artificial intelligence. I don't want something that's going to be reading the screen and doing everything that I don't want it to do. So I'm going to be pushing these older phones as long as I can. Okay, so orders. Here we go. Live demos are always fun. Okay, so this is what I went with. I went with an unlocked iPhone 3rd generation. It works great with AT&T. I just popped out the SIM card and did what I needed to do. And they offer a couple of different versions. I went with the low end 64 gigabyte model. And then they have some options here around the quality when you go pick it. I went with the best quality. And I paid $161, so not too bad. Long story short, after doing that, I did the whole migration from one phone to the next. It took a few hours, and then had to upgrade to iOS 8.1 and then 8.4, and then finally was able to run this new packet software. So anyways, for me, it was more of a eye-opening experience how inexpensive just a 2-year-old phone can be that looks to be in excellent condition. And, I bought it specifically for doing packet radio under iOS. Again, I'm going to put a link to this one here if you guys want to help support the channel. I know a lot of the Buy Me a Coffee folks are here, but refurbished is the way to go. And I like older tech. What's funny, you guys say, oh, the tech prepper, you're always behind. Yep, I'm about 5 or 6 years behind. I would have kept using the iPhone 8 if it wasn't for the fact that this application I need requires an iOS version that is 3 gens sooner. I'm going to jump back to questions here in a second. Let's just see how the installer is going. It's still doing its thing. I like to grab a cup of coffee, or I guess in this case, we'll just talk to you. All right, so let's see. We've got Michael Leo here. He says, I really like my OnePlus N200 with Lineage OS. So he's talking Android now. Lineage OS is a nice privacy-focused one, but there's a bug where I can't receive SMS text messages. Yeah, have you guys watched? There's a show called Loudermilk. I think it might be on Netflix, and it's the guy that was on Office Space. And we were just catching up, I think, on the last season, about midway through, and the main character, Loudermilk, goes into a like a phone store, and they're very much poking fun of the wait queues where you go into the store and there's nobody there, but you need an appointment, and you've got some 20-year-old snot-nosed kid with his iPad and uncomfortable seating, all that stuff, terrible customer service. And he explains that his phone is broken and he just needs a new phone. And they go into this crazy thing about, well, what features do you want? And he's like, I just want it to make phone calls. And the guy goes on to a whole social media rant. So anyways, it's funny that Michael mentioned that the only thing his phone doesn't do is send SMS texts. James says, oh, just saw this. Good morning. Yeah, James, this was a last-minute stream. We're waiting on the EmComm Tools R4 build. This link will be the same one you can watch afterwards. And it's really just for me to go and test the documentation on the EmComm Tools community site that we have going in the background. So informal, apologies for not letting anybody know. I literally started the stream 3 minutes after I created it. I did think I'm getting more and more jaded regarding OS or OSs lately. Phone, PC, no privacy, going to look into Ubuntu Touch on an old iPhone. So I'll tell you what, Ubuntu Touch is my favorite experience on a phone. I did evaluate it with a used Pixel 3a. It worked great, but there wasn't a great app ecosystem. I did purchase one app for the Pixel 3a. In fact, let me see if I can do this without breaking anything. I have it right here. So this was part of some of the research and development I was doing. The reason why I moved away from it was that I wanted to run EmComm Tools on it, and it didn't provide a full Linux experience. Or Mobian does. Mobian's actually pretty cool for that, but you run into a whole slew of other issues with that. But yeah, definitely take a look at Ubuntu Touch. I really like the experience. For me, everything but the camera worked. I actually don't use the camera, but phone calls and text messages. And their store has some apps. I bought a VPN, and it worked actually pretty well. So that might be another option to go. Michael says, agreed on privacy. I'm on a campaign to remove myself from everywhere. Yeah, guys, I'm thinking about doing the same thing. If I ever have to shut down what I'm doing, I'm going full on. Starting a trust, putting everything in a trust, buying a property that I don't tell anybody about, not having any type of phone or tech that has trackers, and not getting on social media whatsoever, and doing as much stuff on pen and paper. The whole privacy thing is a nightmare. And I got to tell you, with what I'm seeing with the new AI-driven phones and these personal agents and assistants, you do not want it in your life. It's going to be very invasive. In fact, my understanding is the new AI that's coming in the phones will break cryptography because they can actually read everything that is on the screen, which it doesn't matter now if they have the keys or not. If you open it and view it, the AI bot will see it. I think YouTube is next. Yeah. I would get away from YouTube if it wasn't such a big part of my life, but fully agreed. Let's see what else we have going on here. We've got Rick. It looks like he's got an AZ flag. Welcome to another local. Good morning. Just seen you here. Yeah, Rick, we're doing a build of EmComm Tools R4. I'm validating the configuration. It's still going. The process takes a little bit of time. You do need an internet connection to actually build the image, but once you have the image ready to go, you never have to do anything. As long as your hardware doesn't die and you don't have any USB failures, you can use this in the future, and that was always the plan here. So we're going to check in periodically. If you guys have any questions about EmComm Tools or anything you want to talk about, I will take that until we get to a good stopping point. In fact, let's get back to my full mug here. Let's see. We've got Ed. Hello, Tech Prepper. I'm loving your map and fox hunting videos. Yeah, that's coming up. So I'm finishing up, or I got to record the BBS 101 video. That's the video I'm trying to get to. But really cool. I wish I had prepared for this. This was just supposed to be an ad hoc thing. So yeah, I'm I'm really resisting tech. I'm going to go on record saying that I'm going to be a Luddite. Uh, I don't believe so. About a year ago, I turned off my data package by pulling up the SIM card of my phone and putting it into a unsupported device. So I went 1 year without having cell data, and it forced me not to use turn-by-turn directions for maps, not to check email, not to check social media. It was a fantastic year. I'm still going to do that. And I realized people don't know how to read maps. I think I talked about this around that time where I grew up with the Thomas Guide. These were great books that allowed you to, at the county level, to have a full index on the back, and you could build a route to wherever you needed to go. It was amazing. It was a giant book. I wish they still existed. And I had three. So that's with the vehicle. But lately, I'm trying to get into debunking some things that the radio community seems to harp on. I felt like I've done a good job of debunking why you should get a license. The answer is training. I debunked it by showing you guys my no random contacts and doing something called targeted contacts. Debunked a whole bunch of stupid myths on NVIS communication. I've been using it now for years with low power, low compromise antennas, and it's been nothing but a workhorse. And the one thing people will tell me is like, you can't key up because someone will find you and put artillery on your position. Now, I'm a civilian and I want to debunk that. So I have been kind of working on a series of videos where I'm starting from first principles, how to find and come upon a transmitting or a transmitter, whether it be an amateur radio system or a commercial broadcast frequency. And to do that, I'm just using a simple handheld radio, a simple directional antenna, and that's where I'm starting. But more importantly, I got stuff everywhere here. I had some maps. Hold on. That's the context by which this question was answered. So I'm creating my own maps again, and I'm using a variety of tools. These days I'm using CalTopo and something called UTM. I like UTM because it's on a 1,000 meter or 1 kilometer square grid. So if you take a look at this, it's going to be kind of rough. But each of those squares is a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid. And the beautiful thing is you can just count them. So if you're in the US, I like to think of a kilometer, 1.6 kilometers is roughly 1 mile. So I can go, for example, we can think of like 3.2 kilometers to be 2 miles, right? So I can go and count squares. I can go, let's say like somewhere over here, and I want to go to the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's 5 check boxes. That's 5 kilometers. I know I have to move east 3 miles. So extremely easy to figure out where you're coming from. And then in conjunction with that, I'll use my GPS watch to pull UTM coordinates. So I always set my watch to use the WGS 84 datum, and I set it with the UTM instead of lat long, and it allows me to plot my position very quickly on the map. And then I use something called the UTM grid. Some of the other work I've been working on has been around, one, printing better maps offline, two, finding how to reuse those maps. So I've been experimenting with different types of paper. I settled on the adventure paper that is no longer available by National Geographic. Cool stuff. And then I'm experimenting with different types of permanent, non-permanent pens, grease pencils. And I did a video the other day where I showed exactly where I landed. So long story short, that was a long-winded response to Ed for him loving the map stuff. So there's more of that coming. And then the plan is, again, for the video series that will be coming up after the BBS 101 video, I'm going to be walking you guys through first principles, some mapping techniques, shooting different bearings, shooting about 3 different bearings, triangulating it. And again, starting from first principles. This is an area that's new to me. I want to take you guys along with me for the ride. And there's a a friend of mine in Fayetteville, Georgia, Joe Domaleski, and he has a great 101 and 102. And I'm using his techniques. He's just using the Yagi, an antenna, the signal meter, and plain old mapping compass where we shoot a bearing and plotting it. So that's coming. I did purchase some new gear. I had a little outing with a few friends to test it out. It was kind of a fail. It's not as easy as it looks, and this is where I want to get into the debunking aspect of that. And I knew where the transmitter was. So did a couple of other buddies, and the general area was easily found using the directional antenna. I have lots of observations I'm going to share with you. I found that, for example, distance is your friend when you're taking bearings. It's a lot more difficult if you're going to be close in. But yeah, that did not go terribly well. So I purchased some other equipment I'll talk about as part of that series. I bought two items from Aero Antenna. The first was a attenuator, 4 megahertz offset attenuator that will plug directly into my radio, and then I can connect the antenna. And it has a dial where you can attenuate the signal, has a cool little Faraday box. So we'll get into all of that. That made things a lot easier, especially when you get in closer. And then I even bought a loop antenna to do something called null hunting. So again, not the expert, but that's all coming. And the goal here is to bridge all that stuff. I even have a future plan to incorporate a hunt where people will hunt me, and also bring in something like the Kraken SDR. I've got some mapping work I'm doing with the SDR myself to do a bunch of cool stuff. So this year is going to be lots of practical stuff coming on all of that stuff. And then ultimately the goal is going to be debunking, how easy it is to find you. And then number two, how can we mask or minimize our signature? So I'm not going to be doing videos for the sake of making videos. I'm going to be making videos with a purpose and a gradual build, and hopefully you guys will be on board for that. All right, so I'll get back to comments here, but the build is still going here for EmComm Tools R4. For my system, I think it takes up to about an hour, but so far so good. All right, let's get back to the questions. Let me know, guys, if you kind of like this this format here. I have been incredibly busy with all the things. Let's see here. You mentioned something in your last video about map making and wanting to know if you want to do a video. We do. Okay. Oh, shoot. If I wasn't doing the build, maybe if we have time, I might show you a quick preview of something called QGIS that's based on that last comment. So I did a thing. I haven't looked at the documentation since ECT. It's actually ETC, Echo Tango Charlie, EmComm, one word, Tools, the second word, and Community, the third. The first community release. What is the mapping solution EmComm Tools? Can I load entire country map for OSM? Yeah, so the great question. So the mapping solution for turn-by-turn offline directions is Navit. It's this guy right here. Okay. I have done lots of customizations to make this work to be drive friendly, including changing the icons. Now it is clunky. The turn-by-turn directions are less than desirable, but it's fully free and open source. What I use, and it's actually documented if I show you guys over here on the, so if I scroll down on the page that I'm currently at, we'll get to this in the install here in a second when it gets there. But to make things simple, and since I'm in the US, there's an option that we'll get to probably in about 10 minutes in the installer that will pull in just state level maps. And this is designed to keep the image small, but also to provide the ability to do mapping with an APRS. Read this section here on the important here. So number one, only download one state level map. I found that if you load multiple maps, it does become problematic. Hold on a second here, guys. I guess I found my phone. All right. So yeah, it does become problematic. Um, and this is specifically an answer to your question. It's already the documentation. So if you need a larger map for offline navigation with Navit, do not download any state level maps. So when you get to this screen here, go to cancel. And what you want to do is visit this site, Planet Extractor. I'll open this in a new tab. And what you want to do is when this thing loads, if it ever loads, you can pick the region of the area for the map you want to do the whole US. I think the entire US map is 4.2 gigs. It's kind of large. I don't know why that's taking so long to come back. And then copy it while you're in the actual image for Cubic. So while you're in here, once all of this is done, you can click this little download icon here, and it will allow you to copy that file there. And that's all you have to do. My only recommendation is we found that if you only have 8 gigs of memory on your machine and you build an image that is close to that, I would say anything larger than 6.5 gigs, you start to run into issues for the installer. I didn't notice it initially because my machine that we're building on right now has 16 gigs of RAM. So keep that in mind. So what I'm doing now personally, I'm not baking in anything other than just a small state map like Arizona. For the larger map, for example, what I'm doing is I'm writing my USB drive using Ventoy, which I did a video on, copying over the EmComm Tools image to that, and then also storing that larger map so that the image is small, so that when I boot it off in memory, it's also small. So yeah, that was a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. But yeah, it's in the documentation on how to do that. And we'll see if we're there yet. No, right now it's installing a couple of web browsers for us. All right. Back to the questions. So I did a thing says clunky is better than nothing. He's referring to Navit, and I completely agree. So yeah, it's also, in my humble opinion, as well. The reason why I'm looking into OpenStreetMaps is I'd like to set up a tile server and flag locations without the internet. So that's a video I want to do for you guys too. I actually run my own tile server. I will share with at least the Buy Me a Coffee group once I get there, and I'll also post it on the bulletin board system over radio, how I install a tile server on EmComm Tools. It's not a, this is interesting. So the tile server, it's an area that I'm going to get into. I'm very much focused on mapping for R5, R6, and R7 in EmComm Tools. But there's 2 things we need to take a look at. This is my field notebook, right? It's my Panasonic FZM1. This is what I take in the field. It's designed to talk to other people and communicate effectively. It's not the tool that I want to use for map building. It's not the system that I want to bog down. So while I'm not going to create 2 different versions of EmComm Tools Lite or EmComm Tools Server, on my bigger machines, I do install some optional packages. And one of it is a full GIS suite, a full geographic information system. And there's something called the tile server. In fact, let me kind of show you this right now. EmComm Tools, my previous version had it. So if we go to like I don't know, tile map server, let's see if we can find one. Let's go to CalTopo. I don't know if they're using, not good. So for example, this is likely generated by a tile server, not certain, but basically for each one of these little squares, they come back as individual images that get tiled to build a map. And you can host these yourself. And the process to do that is, one, you have to set up a database. There's one called PostgreSQL, which takes a lot of memory, does have some compute cycles. It has a GIS plugin that you enable on it. And then there's a very large OpenStreetMap dataset, which I have. It's almost 200 gigabytes, I think, for the entire US. But you can do cool things. You could actually, in your area offline, after you install the database, that plugin, load the data, install the web server and the mod tile plugin, you can get down to a level of fidelity that looks like this. You can get to street level view. And that's where I'm going. So I actually have a full system that does all of that good stuff. And then along those lines, again, there's going to be lots of videos on this. Being anti-internet, even though I'm a technology guy, I don't want to be locked into using Garmin and all of their apps, their ecosystem. So for my Garmin Instinct, I literally just found this. I used my tile server. Okay, I could build a street level map for the entire US at any zoom level I want. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I can use something called QGIS Desktop, and I can have that talk to my tile server, and I can build a map that has the zoom. Then I also found that I can connect directly over USB to my EmComm tool station, my Garmin Instinct, and I can easily pull off the .fit, the .fit track files, and I can load that into QGIS so I can overlay my own activity on my offline map. And I can do all of this without the internet, without a third-party service. So you can kind of see everything I'm working on is related to privacy, not being connected to the internet, assuming you do pre-planning and start to build these things. I'm trying to package as much of these as I can as often as possible in tools like EmComm Tools and formats like this. So possibilities are really amazing once you just learn a little bit here and can build your own systems. Let's see here. Renaissance Man says, I'm new to radio and found your channel. It's a bit overwhelming, but digestible. I appreciate your zeal to learn and teach. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. I got to tell you, so 5 years on the air for me will be May of next month. May 5th will be 5 years since I made my first contact. And I know it could be rough going through, I think it's 380 videos, 390 videos, but I've documented every building block right from that first contact. At that time, I was using, this guy here, the Baofeng UV5R, which incidentally, these things are $16 now, which is nuts to me. So I try to keep it simple. I always consider myself the dumb gorilla in the room. I try not to use large words. In fact, I have a hard time grokking stuff. In fact, right now I'm learning about direction finding, and I'm starting from first principles. And that's how I learn and how I like to teach, and then do it very simply. Welcome. It's not that hard. The biggest thing I would say is I may do a video on May 5th for the 5-year recap, but I would say there's no substitute for training. I think the best way to train is to get your tech license if you're in the US. Not a big fan of the repeater scene, but I am a big fan of folding into public service events. I would say the best way to get the closest to civilian tactical training is to find a local group in your area that does endurance races. I like the 100-miler ultras for running. And it's amazing because you have to self-support, you get deployed, you learn some protocol. And that would be my top 3 recommendation. Get your license, get yourself a simple radio, and get folded into supporting an event. And then lots of different rabbit holes you can go in from there. Before I get to questions, let me take a look at the build. The build is still in progress. So if you missed this, we're doing an EmComm Tools R4 build. This was completely off the cuff and on the fly. And again, the reason why I'm doing it is because I am trying to test the documentation that is on the community site. And I started with a build of EmComm Tools already, but if you go through this community site, community.emcommtools.com, and read through it in order, starting from the homepage, understanding what the mission is and what it's not, going through this. Haven't looked at this video in a while. This was from the R3 release. Curious on what that's like. And then just a shout out to all the wonderful developers in the amateur radio community for all of their contributions, because EmComm Tools, not sharing my screen. EmComm Tools would not exist without those guys. So yeah, highly recommend that everybody who's interested in what it is, start by going to the site, start by going to home, reading through this entire page here. And before I realized I wasn't sharing, big thanks to all of these developers, including the Linux community. Getting started, we'll walk you through user expectations. I'm a realist here. A lot of people will come to me saying, hey, what do I buy I want turnkey. Well, my philosophy is you got to put in work in EmComm Tools. You certainly have to work to build it. So I've got a user expectation section here. Technical effort, let's go. I've got prerequisites. Finally settled on this SanDisk drive. I had issues with the Gorilla drives, guys. I reached out to them. I bought 18 of those drives. I liked them because they're rugged and robust. But for whatever reason, the Gorilla drives that have been coming out in the last year have almost all been failing on me. I had 4 failed. I called their support line multiple times. They won't respond to me. I sent them emails. They won't respond. But these days, while they're not rugged and robust in terms of like a strong casing, this is the recommended drive that I'm using, and they're fast. To burn the image, oh, sorry, not that link. So what you want is the 64 gig, 400 megabytes per second. Let me grab that link here. And what's nice about this one is you can load something called Ventoy, and you have plenty of room to add 5 or 6 different ISO images, whether it is Windows, Linux, Ubuntu 22.10, and EmComm Tools R3, R4, plus plenty of room for your maps there. So that site, see, this website seems to be down. Nice. Part of the reason why I hate the internet. Okay. So yeah, the site goes on like that. So again, the intent is to read it in order. It'll walk you through the process of creating your bootable drive for the initial Ubuntu 22.10 install. It'll walk you through the whole process of installing Ubuntu all the way through, how to add the image build tools, which we started this video with right here. So this is where we started today, if you guys are just joining now. And we are on we're on step 11 right now. And it looks like it's still going, doing its thing. All right. So we got Jason. I don't know if he's still around. He says, sup? Hey, Jason. Ed says, would EmComm be okay running on a Surface Go 2? That's what I use for my portable and POTA activation. So on the FAQ site, I'm only testing equipment that I use on the channel, and that is listed here. In general, EmComm Tools will work on any laptop that is Intel 64-bit, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gig SSD drive, and a dual-core i5 that will work with Ubuntu 22.10. So to answer your question, if you can boot off of Ubuntu 22.10 and all your hardware works, then yes, it will work. But personally, I use ruggedized compute devices. And for me, that's the Panasonic FZM1, G1, and the ruggedized Dell. But it works on my desktops and a few other things. Good question. Godson Imagery says, I just recently discovered PM Tiles combo with Map Libre. So I'm not familiar with either of those. So this is getting back to the offline map tiling solution. Global Vector Maps is 120 gigs. Yeah, that's about what I would expect, and doesn't need a server to host it. Highly recommend it for offline home labs. Okay, so yeah, R5 for EmComm Tools, R6 through R10 have lots of mapping integrations. So I'm working on redoing the mapping integration I did in the version 2 that was never released. You guys saw that with the mapping. And I'm trying to find the sweet spot of size of data, right zoom level, and being able to serve offline maps. Still playing with all of that, but trust me, there's a lot of cool stuff. I even did a prototype the other day where I was able to take samples with my RTL SDR that I've had for a while, the maps, and then doing heat maps. Again, I know there are projects out there, but from first principles, I was curious about that. So I'm going to take a look. I'll add this to my backlog for research. So you said Map Libre, and the other one was PM Tiles. So we'll take a look at that. Very cool stuff. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Oh, so I did things that I just had a Gorilla Drive fail. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think they changed the manufacturing in the last year, and those things are hot garbage. If you have sensitive data on those things, I highly encourage you guys to copy that to another storage media. And like I said, I haven't had any failures with the SanDisk. I wish I had my stuff with me. The other drive that I really, really, really like, and I use this as what I carry on my person, a fully encrypted drive. Let me go over to, it's this guy right here. So it's the SSK drive, and it's a little bit more robust than the drive I just showed you guys, because it has a captive cover for the USB-A side. It doesn't have one so much for the USB-C side, but the cover does help a little bit. These things are very fast, very large. They feel beautiful in the hand. And I want to make sure I get you guys a link, not to a shameless plug, but at the end of the day, I only share with you guys what works for me. And as soon as I find something that fails, I'll let you know, like the Gorilla Drive. So let's see, orders. And I'll share my screen in a second here, as soon as I get off of my personal Amazon stuff. And guys, I've purchased this now 4 times, and I gave away 2 of them to another set of people. So let's go ahead and we'll pull that up. Share screen. And these are the drives, and it's got a cool little inexpensive leather pouch. So I front carry this. This is one of my EDC items. 128 gigs is perfect for a lot of things. I'm even thinking about going up to maybe trying a 512 and doing much longer backups and seeing how those work over time. So I'll drop this one in here. Affiliate link is coming. So yeah, today officially the SSK drive and the SanDisk, those are my 2 picks. And Jack says, happy to catch up a bit on your stream before work today. Yeah, I've got work coming up here. Hopefully the install is almost done. Best of luck with your projects. Thanks for all the work you do and share. My pleasure, guys. I would be doing this stuff anyways. So really, this is just my biggest hobby. Is I love radio. I love solving problems. For those of you guys who saw the map video, I'm really happy with how I solved that map problem. Again, I'm solving it differently than the guys in the military, but that's just how I like to do things. The push to using the UV Pro with just a phone is something else I'm trying to get to have more ubiquitous off-grid radio stuff. So thanks for that. So the install is going. Like I said, guys, make yourself a beverage. Go for a walk, go for a run, go for a hike, and come back on check on the build, because that's the biggest part there. Let's see here. Michael says, sadly, I got a drop. All right, Michael, I think he's probably already exited the building. We'll pick up once you post this recording. Be safe, everybody. So Michael actually does help me out quite a bit on the member Discord. We've got a private Discord for the Buy Me a Coffee supporting members. That community is amazing. I don't have time to go in there more than to post an announcement, but they've got threads on EmComm Tools, on just about everything we cover on the channel, POTA, SOTA, public service, different radios, you name it, SIGINT, a lot of cool stuff. So Black Paw says, I'm late to the party. I've done a few EmComm Tools builds since fall and have been using the same Ubuntu 22.install for the builds. Is it okay, or should I refresh to 22.10 for every build? Yeah, do what you're doing right now, but 22.10 is what officially is supported and what's in the documentation. Yeah, keep doing it on 22.10 or whatever you feel comfortable with. I did things says 120 gig drive isn't bad since 1 terabyte SATA drives are cheap now. I put 1 terabyte drives in my MCM1. Oh, I haven't gone that far yet. I wonder which version or which model. So for those of you guys running the FZM1, I'll tell you where my favorite is. I've got a handful of the Mark 1s, which I don't recommend for anything other than maybe just doing a packet BBS server. which is now included in R4. I did run it for a year with JS8 Call, but it's slow. But the Mark II is what I run. I think it's the best bang for your buck. And the Mark II docks with the FZM1 keyboard, which I have right here. I have one Mark III, and I found that it will not mate with my iKey keyboard. I don't know if anybody has any experience using the Mark III with an iKey keyboard, but I can't get it to work with it. Let's see. Black Paw says the SSK drives are pretty sweet. I got the 1 terabyte version. Oh, cool. So I wasn't sure about that. I've only worked with the 128. We'll be getting the 256 soon. But yeah, I may give the 1 terabyte or the. Do they have a 1 terabyte? Maybe under a different length they have it, but my screen just shows 512. For 1 terabyte, I use the Asus TUF Gaming AI with 1 terabyte SATA SSD. I like rugged metal things. Yep, me too, buddy. That's the way to go. So Jat_4321 says off topic likely, but have you ever set up a single frequency repeater with the Anytone 578? Yes, I have. That was supposed to be a video. I just ran out of time. Other things was going on. I have notes somewhere, like physical hard copy notes I'd have to go resurrect. And I did do a factory reset. It is possible. I can't remember all the settings because the CPS software with Anytone is very difficult. But yeah, it works 100%. You pick one frequency, you use both slots, and you use you use like slot 2 to receive, slot 1 to transmit. I'll try to get to it at some point and revisit it. I think there may be some other people that have covered it. But yeah, I was absolutely running it at the house on my business frequency on essentially like 460 megahertz. I forget where my business license lands, 461 megahertz. And I was able to pretty much get my entire range of coverage. I'm licensed for 28 kilometers across 5 licenses. And it was great being in the field on low power on either my Anytone or my Motorola. The cool thing about using the Anytone 578 as a single frequency repeater is it works great with the Moto Turbo line of Motorola's. I did a thing, seems to be all in today on recommendations on hardware that works for him. He's way deeper into hard drives than I am, so take a look at his stuff. And Brian says, I didn't get a notification. I'm sure he meant WTF. Yeah, Brian, so I was doing some testing before, or about to do some testing of EmComm Tools R4 before work. I wanted to test the accuracy of the current documentation here. We're on the getting started section under creating the image. And I wanted to prove to myself that I could go and clip or copy to my clipboard every step. And that's what we've been doing. I had this idea to test this before work. And that was at about 6:55 a.m. So didn't even have time to share with the Buy Me a Coffee. And the goal was, even if people didn't join today, this would be a video I could refer people to. So it's been real time, and the install is still going here. So you guys may want to go back and watch the video. We even covered some other topics. People had some good questions about mapping, some of the work I'm doing on radio direction finding. So a lot is going on. And I need to take a quick sip, and I'll answer the remaining questions. Okay. If I forget to share my screen, once the video gets closer, let me know. So Jet says, trying to get into DMR for some local stuff with my guys, might be grabbing that radio soon. Yeah, I like the Anytone 578. There's a few things I don't like about it. In the past, I would say I would only do Japanese radios. I don't care for the quality of the Chinese radios, but they are killing the Japanese when it comes to feature set. A great example, I don't have it with me, is the Vero VGC N76 or NR76 or whatever that is, and the my new go-to everyday carry radio, which is the BTEC UV Pro. They're just crushing it. But the Anytone is really nice. It's fully unlocked, so it works on amateur radio. It works on my commercial business frequencies. While it's not certified, it does work on FRS and GMRS. So I didn't build it, but it works on everything pretty nicely. And single frequency repeater is poorly documented across the internet. Like I said, I do have notes on that. Audio quality is actually very good on it. And then I haven't tested it, but my buddy Brian, who told me why the hell I sent him a notification. He's using it with the DigiRig cable, and he's had some success getting that to work with the DigiRig mobile. But yeah, so the reason why I like DMR and why I was looking at it last year was just another layer of privacy, right? So if you look at it compared to traditional analog amateur radio, just by going to DMR and using it for simplex. I've never connected it to the internet. I've always gone on record saying I self-issue DMR IDs. In fact, here's a funny thing here. I want to share with you guys something while we're still going on with this thing here. I don't like doing this, but occasionally people drive me absolutely nuts. I guess it's just the nature of the job. So on Instagram, I respected their privacy, but I had this come in. Oh, come on. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but the post on one of the DMR videos I did about a year ago was by a gentleman who says, DMR for preparedness is such a waste. No one is using DMR that will be of benefit to you. End of story. This type of black and white bullshit of don't use a radio because you'll get your position found right away with direction finding and you will be killed. Don't get a license because how dare the government, and you can key up, but you won't be able to train guys. And then crap like this of, pardon my French, this is what I can't stand about a large portion of the preparedness community, is they're absolutely wrong with this black and white all or nothing thinking. DMR, in my humble opinion, has value. It has value, especially on the preparedness side, for exactly what I said, using it for simplex communication, radio to radio communication, especially if you do observe low power or least power needed, use directional antennas, use frequencies, you vary your frequencies, vary your schedules, and then have DMR on top of it. You pretty much eliminate your entire eavesdropping service. And then if you have something like a business license and encrypt on top of it, you're out of luck. So again, that's why that DMR question is the same reason why I'm going to be focusing after the BBS 101 video on demystifying the realities of amateur radio direction finding. Quick note on that. It is not easy. We had, again, in a field exercise I did a few weeks ago, had the Baofeng UV5R positioned a mile away from camp, transmitting a beacon every 30 seconds, okay? And again, we were using basic tools. It was our first time doing it with directional antennas. And while we were able to get a bearing, we were able to get two bearings in about 30 minutes because we were on foot. We weren't vehicle bound. It is incredibly difficult. So this thing was transmitting for 94 minutes, every 30 seconds continuous before we found it. In fact, I think we even cheated because we knew where it was and the guys started to go off. There's this weird, we'll get into it when I do the series, but with amateur direction finding, there's this weird principle called, I think it's 180 degrees. I've been mostly looking at military literature on this subject, where the signal, you take a bearing and you point it at what you think is the transmitter, and you think it's going to be, let's say, 166 degrees south. Well, it has reverse azimuth too. So that signal could also be coming from behind you. So the way that I'm approaching this, again, is from first principles. I honestly don't think it's that simple. Even with something like the Kraken SDR, there will be an actual physical hunt where I will be mobile, I'll be on foot, and people are going to track me. And I think I'm going to be able to defeat the Kraken SDR the way that I'm planning on doing it later this year. But anyway, so one of the other areas that I'm researching, the way that I researched NVIS, for example, is I did not go to the amateur radio community. I went to the military, and I've got some techniques I use. I'm reading literature right now on amateur direction finding that goes back to 1966. I'm reading declassified papers that are that don't have any like redactions, on it. And it's amazing what you can find looking at older techniques because they're still relevant today. So I'm trying to start with all of these first principles, and I want to share that journey with everybody here. Okay, before I get back into more comments, we went down a rabbit hole in DMR. We're now on the next step here. So let's go to the documentation first here. We were on step 11. I'll try to slow down my scroll here a little bit. So as I mentioned before, step 11 is optional. You can hit cancel. And if you're in the US, it will give you the ability to select a state, and it'll download a map that will be used for the offline navigation, as well as keep a copy of a map that you can import on first install into Yak for APRS. This broke in R3 the day after the release. I have since fixed it. So I'm going to pick Arizona. And this site does take a while to download. Right now, it looks like it's going to be fairly quick at about a minute, but this could take 20 or 30 minutes. And again, I encourage you guys to see the discussion we had on this section a little bit earlier in the video. So what it's going to do, it's going to download that map, and then it's going to produce two versions, or not produce two versions. One version will be used, the version being downloaded is the version that will be used by Yak, and it'll put it in your local home directory called my-map. So when you launch Yak, the APRS client, on first install, you can go to that folder and import the maps offline. But the second thing it does, it'll take this Arizona latest OSM dot protocol buffer file, and it'll convert it into a format that can be used by Navit, and it sticks it in the Navit home directory. So when you go to click on Navit, when you first start, you'll have your state level map. So again, while that's going on, there were instructions on how to build a larger regional map. I don't want to rehash that conversation. So we're at this point in the installation. If you're overseas, hit cancel, and also go to Navit Planet Extractor and download or make the appropriate map based on your area. The last thing that we're going to do before leaving is we're going to run some tests. It's not a comprehensive test suite, but it does do a handful of validations. Okay, so right now you can see it finished the map download and is going through and building the version of the map that will be used by Navit. So we're almost at the end of the installation here, guys. Okay, let me take a few more questions, but we're going to check. I'm actually going to have to set an alarm because I have a tendency to go down some deep rabbit holes here. We'll set that for 3 minutes. And let's see here. I did think says targeted comms in small time windows reduces the likelihood of direction finding. S2 has a whole series on this. Oh, cool. Yeah, I actually don't watch too much YouTube at all these days. Just don't have the time for it. But yeah, he's got good stuff. I hope we're not duplicating efforts. The nice thing is that we're likely approaching all of this stuff from different perspectives. And that's the other reason why I don't watch other YouTubers' YouTube channels. But yeah, S2 Underground is awesome when I have the opportunity of catching him. Ed says, did you use an inline attenuator while you were hunting? No, and here's the reason why. This was our first fox hunt, and I wanted to use simple techniques. So the techniques we resorted to were, we used my Yaesu VX6R, used just a directional antenna. I used the Chameleon 440 folding Yagi. So we used that to get the first two bearings. Then when we got closer, we just used the stock rubber duck antenna. We did put the the radio on body, did body blocking, 360 rotation. We did frequency bumping. So we moved up the frequency 5 kilohertz. And then we also, to make it more difficult for the signal 5 kilohertz down to actually overcome it. Again, do more body blocking, more rotations. And then ultimately then we remove the antenna to do that. I'll do a video again demonstrating that again, because I believe those are easiest tools, first principles. We did a exercise. I did an exercise last weekend, I think. Can't even remember now, where I did incorporate the attenuator from Arrow, and it made a world of difference being able to put the attenuator directly on top of, actually, hold on. I actually have this. You guys can beat me up for never being prepared. But anyways, this is my new RF finding or RDF kit. I'm just using a cheap Apache knockoff, and it looks like that. And really quickly, so I'm just using the Baofeng UV5R with the extended battery. As I mentioned before, I liked it because it has the 1.7 millimeter jack there, which you can actually draw power from. So my transmitter, or the beacon for the fox hunt, I showed this a few times, is the Bionics BFCon. This is the microcontroller, and it has two pigtails. The first one plugs into the Baofeng. We'll switch back over to the EmComm Tools bit here in a second. And then you can also plug in from power here, and the transmitter will now beacon every 30 seconds. So that's the first bit of kit. I haven't had issues with power. This thing will run at 2.5 watts for at least 2 hours, maybe longer. That's been my longest fox hunt, has been 2 hours. And then the question was, are you using an attenuator? And for part two, yes, this is the attenuator, and it has a battery inside. You drop this directly on the radio with the BNC connector. That's why I've got the adapters. Drop your antenna here, and then you can, I had it turned on, might have a dead battery. And then you can attenuate or dampen the signal by adjusting this. I found that it gets very sensitive once you get to about the 75% area here. So more on this later, guys, because this is all new to me, and I'm doing it cold. But the nice thing about this little box too is it also acts as a Faraday cage, so you don't have signal coming in here impacting it. And the other piece that I haven't quite figured out how to use is the null hunting. So also from Arrow, this is the loop antenna, and you can do something called null hunting with this. So as I get closer, this is the combo. Ultimately, what we found was removing this antenna with the attenuator was the hot ticket. So that's the plan there. Let's get back to EmComm Tools. It should be done here. So it took 57 minutes on my hardware to install and download all of the software. We're still working within the virtual environment at this point. And the next step that I want to test here is change into the test directory. So just to make sure that the documentation works, I'm doing the copy and paste. I recommend everybody do this. Don't type stuff out. Right click, paste the text. We're in the directory now. You can see here there's a handful of tests. I wish I would made them more complete. I didn't add this test suite until much later in the R3 development, but now every new feature that goes in has a test. And then we're going to run the test suite. We'll copy that. And we can paste text here. And everything passed. Okay. So at this point, we're technically done with the official EmComm Tools bits here. And what we can do is you can do other things so long as you know what you're doing. So if you need other files that you want to add, for example, I can go into the etc scale directory. This directory is used as a template for all new user accounts that are created. So when you do the installer and you put in the username and password you want to use, all the files in here will be in your home directory. And this is what EmComm Tools does for you. So for example, it does a lot of the configuration. If we take a look under My Maps, you can see here's a copy of the OpenStreetMap for Arizona that will be used by Yak. If you wanted to copy over Wikipedia .zim files, this would be the time at which you could go into this directory, and then you can use this copy feature, this button at the top, and you can copy files. So for example, let's say in this image, I wanted to copy over my Wikipedia files, and I've got quite a few, but let's say I want the simple all. So this will add 915 megabytes to the installer. But when you boot and install, you'll have this there. So this will give me all of Wikipedia as of 2024 of 06. Is that June? So I'll select that. I'll copy it. And this allows me to copy files into what will be my home directory. So now I'll have at least that one file. So you can make minor changes. Don't go crazy with this. Again, I don't recommend that your image is longer or larger than 6.5 gigabytes unless you're working with like 16 gigs of memory. I used to also personally do this. In fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go into the Navit folder. And you can see here, this is actually a great question for the guy who wanted a larger map. You can go into map. So the directory that I'm in Cubic is /etc/skel/.navit/maps. And you can see that when we do that installer, it put in this Arizona bin. This is what is used by Navit. I'm going to remove it. And what I'm going to do is, this is typically how I build my images. Again, I'm going into the copy from my host system to this virtual environment. And where did I put it? I forgot where I put it. Stand by, guys. Let me see where I put this thing. Find, type, file, name, bin. And if you guys are new to us, this is how something called the Nerd Hour goes on my live streams when I do them. Okay. I had one called OpenStreetMaps. Perfect. Okay. All right. So what I'll do here is that we'll go into my maps, and I'm going to copy my OSM Southwest. And this is the map that I created using that link here. We'll copy that. Again, this is going to make the image quite a bit larger. So my image now might be like 6.5, 7 gigs in size, which will be fine. Okay, so this is what my map directory looks like. At this point, I'm going to click Next. So we've done the test suite. I didn't put any type of step 14 there to say, hey, these are the extras that I do. I just want to show you what I personally do to make it my own. In fact, I even install some of what will be in R5 in my image, some of the GIS mapping stuff and some other tools I'm building. Okay, so we're going to click Next to continue, and it says the preparing options screen will run for a few minutes. Let's verify that it's already done. Step 16, do not make any changes on the select packages screen. Click Next button to continue. Yeah, so don't make any changes on this screen. Just keep everything as is. Click Next. Now, this is something new that I wanted to share with the guys that I've been doing for a while, and I just updated on the documentation. It's optional, okay? So on the screen that displays the kernel version, so this screen right here, right? And it's got a ... Optionally click on the boot tab, this tab right up here, at the top middle of the window, and change the boot entry menu from try or install Ubuntu to try or install EmComm Tools R4 Final, then click Next. So again, fully optional, but if you want to know when you're booting into an image, if you can click on Grub here, and you have to be careful not to break anything. I'm going to remove try or install Ubuntu, and I'm going to put etc_r final. And when we actually boot off of the drive, you'll see that presented as the menu option, and then just click Next. So on this screen here, we have a couple of compression options. I always use the standard, which is the default, which is gzip, and hit generate. Now this process, what it's going to do is going to mix or create the actual image. Depending on the size, this could take 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll let that go. But after that, we're essentially going to be done creating the actual image that you would otherwise download. So the instructions go on, showing you exactly click on boot and put try or final there. Make sure you have everything quoted properly. If you're unsure how to do this, I would just skip the step altogether because you could brick the bootloader to install. And then again, same thing. We saw that generation screen. If I don't tell you to do something, always assume the default. The default here is gzip, so just hit the generate button and continue. And then you'll be presented with this screen, and it says when Qubit completes, you'll be presented with the image details. So a few things to note. The image that I created when I was developing this final image, the size is 5.18 gigabytes. The image that we're creating today is going to be a little bit larger because I did two things differently. I added a offline Wikipedia that's what was it, like 900 megabytes, and then I also installed the whole Southwest map. So my image is probably going to be close to 6.9, maybe 7 gigs on my end. And then it'll tell you in your home directory where that file is located. So if you go to home, your home directory, you should already be there. There'll be a folder that was what we created our workspace, and there'll be a .iso image and a .md image. Okay, yeah, so we're still going here. I will put an alarm here to check here in 5 minutes because I do have to get to work. I could probably go until 8:45 local time this morning. The last thing here, there's this program called Balena Etcher. It's really easy to install for Windows, Linux, or Mac. If you don't want to install Balena Etcher on Linux, you can go ahead and install it on another machine. All you have to do is copy the ISO image that we built to some media and move it over. So in my case, I've got the command line tools for Balena Etcher. I'm not going to run it, but I'm going to do sudo. I install Balena Etcher under this directory here. And I picked it because it's a simple to use application. Where you just pick the file. Again, we need to wait for it to be written, but I'll go into this directory there. And then we'll pick our drive. I don't have a drive plugged in. And then you click flash, and then you'll want to eject it. In fact, let me get a drive just in case. We'll do that whole process for you. So let's see what drive I've got here. Oh, that's a Windows 10 drive. I don't want to mess with that drive. Okay, so I've got a EmComm Tools drive here with a little dust cover. And this is the same SanDisk drive I was showing you guys. So we'll use this one as the example. So we'll kill this for right now. We'll wait for the image to be written, and we'll do everything in turn. Okay, let's get to some questions. And guys, if I forget to share my screen when we get to the last image right issue, please let me know. So Brian says the 578 is Part 90 approved and can be used for GMRS. Oh, I did not know that. Interesting. I don't know why I thought GMRS might have fallen under Part 95. I thought Part 90 was the commercial one. Okay. I did thing. Oh, I've gone through those comments. So Ed says, nice. I use an MFJ attenuator. I think MFJ has gone out of business. It has several choices for attenuation, 1 through 30. It's long, but with a short piece of coax makes it manageable. So guys, let me know if you have any questions. Again, the whole goal of today was more for me to have confidence that the instructions that I've put together on the community site are working and not to be polished. In fact, guys, I got to apologize for the last time. I don't want to have to always apologize. I have zero time. I have a full-time job where all projects have kicked off. I am taking more responsibility as a day job. I've got responsibilities to the Buy Me a Coffee guys. YouTube makes it very difficult for me not to lose kind of placement of videos. So I'm only doing a point and shoot with a camera, no editing, all in one take. They usually take me less than 10 minutes to produce altogether. A lot of them lately have been just kind of tabletop shots of, hey guys, this is what I'm working on. Here's all the gear. Here's what I learned. A good example of that format was that last map video where I said, hey, this is my new map gear. Unless something changes, I'm not moving off of it. So expect those. Videos like the BBS 101 video, which I've been trying to produce now for over 2 months, now that I have 5 months of experience, those take a lot of time. And what sucks is I'm probably going to have like 5 months of testing, 5 months of learning, uh, lots of it tying up my equipment for all of this time. Probably going to take me 40 hours to film, lots of editing, lots of write-ups, and I'm going to get just as many views as the 10-minute video end-to-end to produce. But I want to do that because it provides value. And again, my goal is really to understand and learn the stuff. And that video, that BBS 101 video that is coming, I want to share everything that I learned. And it's going to cover why a BBS in 2025, a little bit of what the old school BBS was, a little bit of that history, a little bit of the packet BBS scene in its heyday in the 80s and 90s, why we're doing it, why I'm doing it for preparedness. And there is a local community angle that I'm going to be getting after. So that will go into how to find a BBS using some techniques I come up with, how to connect to it, basic 101 commands, how to connect it under Windows, how to connect to it from Android, how to connect to it from hopefully iOS. That's something new I'm working on. And then my experience as running it as an operator, what's involved, my station walkthrough, the gear that I'm using, the 5 different ports that I have experience using, and why I'm only running 2, and expectations and managing the service. So it's going to be a long ass video. I can't break it up into multiple parts, but I'll have timestamps and chapter markers. But that's the other style of video. Okay, so let me get back. My little alarm went off, and let's see if, oh, cool. So we're done. So the image has been built. So this is a large image. This will likely not work on most laptops that are 8 gigs because I've gone to about 7 gigs in size. It may work. It's 6.94 gigs. And then you can optionally test the image. I never do that. Don't delete all the project files. If you select that, let's say you want to go in and just make a minor tweak and go back to the virtual console. If you delete these files, you'll lose that. And again, this is installed under my home directory and under the workspace. So we'll close that. So what we want to do now is take our USB drive. Okay, have plugged that in. Right now I probably have, well, the old R4 final. Again, I'm not going to go into the Boolean etcher install. If you guys don't feel comfortable going through that yourself, I recommend just copying the ISO file, which is under your home directory. We created a workspace called EmComm Tools OS Community, and you should see the ISO image and the markdown one. The other option is if you're running a Ventoy drive, it's actually kind of nice. Plug in your Ventoy USB drive and just copy these 2 files to it, and you're done after properly unmounting them. So we're going to go ahead and write the image, and you'll get a sense for the speed here. So that's a 7 gig image. So I'm going to go into the workspace directory there. And guys, tee up your final questions because then I'm going to call it a day. We're going to select the ISO image that we just created, hit open. The drive I just installed, that SanDisk 64 gig drive is in there. We'll go select, and now we're going to flash it. And you can see here right now, it's estimating less than 3 minutes. It's probably going to be faster than that. And once that's writing, it'll go through a test phase that takes about the same time. And then after all of that's done, you can close Boolean etcher, and then you would right click here and do unmount. So let's see here. So Ed said, or not Ed, Kilo Victor 5, Romeo says that GMRS is part 97 like CB. The technical ham says part 95. Falls under, part 95. I thought so. And then thanks for the video. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Like I said, this is ad hoc. It's the best I can do. But hopefully we've come to the conclusion that EmComm Tools R5 can be built if you have done everything in this order. And if you're starting with the create EmComm Tools image, if you go through this process relatively soon, and again, this is not the, I haven't officially released it yet. I don't think there's going to be any change. There shouldn't be any changes. But I haven't done an official announcement, but everything is tagged and ready to go. But the point is, if you go through this, hover over the sections that have commands in particular. If you copy the clipboard and then go into your build system and paste, we demonstrated that everything just works out the gate. Anyway, GMRS takes its own SEC type acceptance. Yeah, that was my understanding as well. So getting back to the flashing bit here, we've got another minute or so for it to flash. And I do want to show you guys the unmounting procedure so that there are no problems. So any other questions I can answer before we call this one here? It'd be nice to be able to only be 30 minutes late to work today. But appreciate all the help, guys. There's a lot coming. Stay tuned. Really looking forward to it. Just bear with me on production quality. A lot of fun stuff planned. I even have a get home thing. So I did a thing has a comment here. He says, with all of life happening, are you planning on EmComm Tools community revision cadence quarterly, or will it be as time allows? So the plan is quarterly. I pretty much delivered R4 in time, right? So 3 months of development, and it landed in April. It feels like I'm not going to be able to keep up with that cadence. It's too quick. And the work that I'm doing now that we have the basic plug and play support, we've got all of these different modes. It's really about building on all of those capabilities. So R5 is going to introduce the EmComm Tools API with a lot of geo functions, the ability to do distance calculations, a lot of other things. It's going to bring in the VoaCap engine and some custom scripts I developed before. So you'll be able to be geo-detected or enter in your call sign. It'll reverse look up you. It'll reverse look up the other operator, and it's going to do HF prediction on the fly. There is a stretch goal. If I get all of that working, I'm building a custom version of an email client that will work with a Pat Winlink backend that will integrate that HF prediction and also mode bits. So one of the things I don't like about Pat Winlink is that, at least with EmComm Tools, when you go to work on it, you select Winlink for packet, or you select Winlink for var, or Winlink for RDOP. I don't want to see the other modes and have all of those clicks. So to get your question, I feel like this year, R4, R5 will certainly happen with those capabilities. If there's time to do the next level of mapping capabilities, that'll be R6. So I don't think I'll be able to do more than R6 this year. In fact, it feels like us already being more than 4 months in. I think it'll be R4 and then starting on R6 might be the cadence. What revision are you planning on being final? So yeah, revision 10 will be the final release of EmComm Tools. At that point, I will have all of the off-grid mapping, all of the custom applications built. It's going to be the appliance that I've always wanted. It'll have all the features from the commercial version. It may even bring over some of the encryption features that I've implemented as well for radio. So R10 is so I'm on a 2-year timeline total to get that done. At that point in 2027, my goal is to design a custom built radio. I'm going to go full VHF, UHF, all band, all mode radio, building Bluetooth first principles, Bluetooth sound card. I'm going to be getting into embedded systems. So everything I'm building, it has a very long roadmap. I'm not coming up with these features willy-nilly. I'm slowly building the foundation over time. So yeah, great question, guys. I have time for a few more questions as the validation is still in flight. And the technical ham has, aside from you already planned features, any possible features at any point for FL Suite? Yeah, so FL Digi Suite is in the plan. In fact, I already built an entire integration for FL Digi, FL Message, and FLAMP. And I even built a custom map interface 2 years ago. And that's part of the stuff that's coming into EmComm Tools. I just don't want all of those prototypes coming in. So I did an example where I was doing, I think they call it in the ATAC world, COTS sharing. Well, I already did that stuff over HF. and I wrote a custom integration where my EmComm Tools API talks to the FLDigi modem completely headless. You actually don't even see FLDigi running, and it uses forms on the back end to do things like position sharing. And then the cool thing about it is I did a video on this some time back, where two stations are running the EmComm Tools R2 release that was never released with the map running with that engine, and you start to see the user pop up on HF with their pin. And then you can also share other waypoints. You can say, hey, let's go do a movement to this position. I'm sending you a pin. And on VHF, UHF, and HF, that all happens using FLDigi as a modem, and the pin just shows on your tactical awareness map. So a lot of cool stuff. I just don't have any more hours in the day, and this is also my training season. I'm back now to running 5 miles a day, so getting into it slowly, but I need to start carving out about 90 minutes to 2 hours so I can start to get at least to 10 to 12 miles a day going. So just bear with me. If you guys want to support me, the Buy Me a Coffee is the best way to do it. I'm going to do the shameless plug because, like I said, if it wasn't for Buy Me a Coffee, there would be I couldn't do what I'm doing. So I'm grateful and blessed to everybody. Memberships are a great way. You get lots of perks. In fact, the bags I'm working on have a limited run of the new Manpack bags and may only be able to do the 25 units. And those are going first to gold, which is sold out, and then first come, first serve on silver. So I do try to have perks for those premium guys. But anyways, guys, so that is image written. And now at this point, what you want to do is go over to this little icon where it's EmComm Tools Final, hit eject, wait for it to say you can safely unplug it, and we are done. All right, guys, thanks a lot for joining. I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.